Hey there everybody, and welcome back to Sasquatch Speaks. This is Sasquatch, otherwise known as Gavisas, welcoming you all once again to this dark little corner of the internet, which we so affectionately refer to as ours. On today's episode, I have this thing that, again, it's annoying me, frustrating me really, not really anything all that important, just a question I have. And I do apologize for the mouthy cat in the background. I don't know why she suddenly decides that now is the perfect time to make her presence known, but for whatever reason, she has decided it is. Hello, kitty. Yes, hello. But a lot of movies have been coming out recently. Most of them are just like the teen movies, Hunger Games, Maze Runner, I think was the most recent one to come out. They've been coming out recently, but there have also been movies like this going back basically since the beginning of movies. I think the first one that would have been like this was called Metropolis. I think I saw that movie once or twice, many years ago. I have seen that movie. But there's a common theme that's held among all these, like I said, going back to Metropolis, and then, let me see, what is it? Logan's Run was a really big one in the 70s. TV shows are subject to this as well. The Last Ship is a new one that just came out. I've actually been enjoying that one quite a bit. It's kind of like Star Trek without the stars. But still pretty good. Well, Star Trek would kind of actually be the one exception to this trend that I've seen. But basically, the trend is that all of them take place in some sort of dystopian future. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with this extremely lengthy word, and perhaps overly confusing, dystopian is the exact opposite of utopian, which is probably a more familiar word. Utopian is everything working together in perfect harmony. Dystopian is more of an unpleasant outcome. Something terribly, horribly wrong has occurred, and as a result, there is some manner of injustice or oppression or world-ending sickness or catastrophe. And I've been watching more than a few of these programs and videos and movies, however you want to refer to them, over the years. And I've noticed an extremely high bent, or extremely high level of preference for movie makers to assume that the future will always end up worse than the present. Now, everyone in the present day and in the real world are doing their level-headed best in whatever form or capacity they view that to be. They are doing their level-headed best to improve the future, to try and make it better than today, to try and improve on either technology or medicine or helping the poor people or feeding the hungry. However you want to put it, everyone is in some small way, shape, or form, even if it is just the selfish thing of trying to improve their own personal life. Everyone is in some way or another trying to bring about a better future. So I find it interesting and quite baffling somehow that in almost every single case that is presented to us, like I said, Star Trek would probably be about the only example I can think of that would be different. In almost every single case that is presented to us of a possible future, something has gone just horribly wrong. Now, I understand that there is a bit of entertainment value which is derived from seeing the conflicts that arise from this. Like in The Matrix, where the machines rose up and conquered humanity, and it's just that last small group of survivors desperately struggling against the machine world in order to bring about, again, that better future. Struggling as human beings to improve their lives, or the lives of those who should come after them, is, I think, an inherent human trait. Whether or not that is properly portrayed in movies and such. And I find it interesting also that in most of these cases, a very silly but perhaps still good example of this would be Demolition Man. If you've ever seen that movie, still Sylvester Stallone and Sandra Bullock. I think Benjamin Bratt's in that one too. Fairly. It's not a deep movie at all, but it's Jamie Foxx is in there too. He plays the villain. Plays a great villain, by the way. But it's not at all a serious movie. It's an action adventure sort of thing, and it's very lighthearted in how it portrays mass murder and death. But it's still worth a watch, I think. With a few exceptions on certain scenes, but that's another story. The point that this being presented here is that almost in almost every example, specifically this one, what brings about the dystopian future, that departure from everyone working together to make things, better than they are right now, usually what brings that about is a misguided attempt at that end result. In this particular case, Demolition Man, what happens is they are attempting to seek out that and create for themselves that utopian society. They've had some sort of world war or something, and everyone's just, I don't want to have to deal with this anymore, and it's just bad, and it's awful. There's all this killing. And so, in the grand city of San Angeles, which is basically just the entire coast of California, they say, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to block out everybody who we deem as being unfit, and we are going to create our little utopian society here. But their utopian society is, of course, devoid of all human emotion, interaction, just everything that is considered to be an integral part of the human experience is pretty much taken out. Even food is just reduced. The simple enjoyment of a meal is just whittled down to pills. That's it. Just pills. Pop a pill, you're full. Okay, good. Move along with your day. And it's there's no life in this society. It's just we are existing without actually living. There's a movie coming out later this year. I don't remember what it's called, but it actually takes that to a further extent. There's another movie a couple years ago with Christian Bale in it. Can't remember what that one's called either. Sean Bean dies in it. I do remember that. But it distills it down to an actual drug that is administered to the populace at large to remove human emotion. Because they are operating under the assumption that human emotion is like a cancer and an evil which will lead to revolution and wars and uprisings. And to an extent, they're right. But in order to bring about this end, they arbitrarily decide, against apparently the will of the people themselves, that this is the correct path. And then they forcibly administer said medicinal things. I'm not really sure if they would consider it a medication or just some grand elixir to remove human emotions from humans. And, of course, there's always the rebellion, and, it's so evil, and we must fight against it. Okay, I agree with you. That's a really messed up society. You should probably not be a part of that. But the thing that really bothers me, like I said, these are all fantastic stories. Fahrenheit 451, if you want to get a little bit more classical in it, the burning of books, because books bring about knowledge, undue knowledge and thoughts that could lead to revolution against the government, and that is that and the other, and I can't believe I didn't think of this one already. The Planet of the Apes, such a good, even the new ones that are coming out now, just fantastic movies, such a fantastic storyline about a possible future in which, while we are trying to improve ourselves and improve our world, we end up basically just condemning it. But I'm curious. Why is it that we as human beings, while we are attempting in every way, shape, and form in our normal daily lives to improve the world around us, to better ourselves or the people we know, or even the people we don't know, reaching out to the underprivileged, the underfed, the poor of the world, the oppressed, while we are trying to raise them up and while we are trying to improve ourselves, at that same time, why is it that we are incapable of imagining a world that is actually better than the one in which we currently exist? Why is it that we have that innate desire, or maybe not even desire, but that innate just rejection of the better? I'm reminded a little bit of what is said about said in the Matrix. Like I'm going to be quoting a lot of movies here. Agent Smith has Morpheus in the tower, and they're interrogating him and trying to hack into his brain to get the codes to the Zion mainframe. And in that instant, he says, "This is not the first version of the Matrix. There's been 3 or 4 before this. And the first one, what we did was we took what everyone assumed to be the pinnacle of human society, the pinnacle of human existence, that truly utopian future. And we designed the Matrix around that. We gave you exactly what you assume that you want. And what happened? The human mind rejected it. They fought against this utopian future which was imposed upon them. And it's like, is the only possible outcome actually a dystopian one? In which, assuming that life on this planet continues for a great many years hence, we will eventually end up in one of those scenarios where it's not what we're all working towards. It will not be the Star Trek utopia. For those of you who don't know, Star Trek is basically communism. Basically. I'm not going to hedge any bets, hedge on that at all. And I do enjoy the series. I enjoy the movies. I've watched every single one of of the incarnations of Star Trek in some capacity. The one I've seen probably the least of is Deep Space Nine. But that's because, I don't know. It never really struck a chord with me. But Next Generation, the original series, Voyager, even Enterprise. Enterprise is probably the weakest of them all. But I still found it enjoyable. I should probably actually give Deep Space Nine a better shot now that I think about it. But that's not the point. The point is that in that universe, in Gene Roddenberry's universe, we achieved utopia. Somehow or another, we convinced everybody on planet Earth to not only accept, not even essentially, just straight up communism. Just like, hey, everything belongs to everybody, no holds barred. But even that's not really true, because there are farms and things that are specifically mentioned as being owned. So I don't know what is going on in Gene Roddenberry's world, because clearly it's not any system which is currently existing on planet Earth right now. Because the more I think about it, because Captain Picard from The Next Generation, his brother has a vineyard that he visits on several episodes. Dr. Crusher, she has there's several mentions of things that her ex-husbands have owned. And I do say ex-husbands. There are multiple of them. And I do not know all of their names. I'm not that big of a Trekkie. But I understand that there are more than one. The point here, I suppose that he just kind of ignored all of it. It wasn't that he thought this could be, that there really was such a thing as a truly utopian society. It's just that he tried to focus more on the progression of the story rather than how they got there. Because, well, in the context of what I'm talking about, in the fact that there are just a lack of truly utopian societies portrayed in that future context, even though, like I said, that's what everyone is supposedly working for, I find it interesting that it's never really addressed as to how they got to where they are. There are certain things which are referred to as being owned and operated by specific people. And then there are things which is like, well, no, that just kind of belongs to everybody. So I'm not really sure what sort of system he imagined there. That'd be kind of interesting if we could get some sort of insight on that. Or if it really was just something that he ignored so that he could focus more on the current social issues through telling of other stories in a future setting. That might be an interesting thing to study out. Makes a note of it and carries on with the day. But, like I said, with that being the one exception, and as I've just kind of gone through that thought process. I suppose that's only an exception because he decided just not to address it at all. Pretty much everything you see nowadays, not even nowadays, even in the past, everything ends up being just a free-for-all or a slaughter fest or something just absolutely horrible. In spite of everyone's apparent or professed desire to make a better future for tomorrow. And I find this interesting that even with the apparent desire of most, if not all, people today wanting to improve their lives or whatever it is, or the lives of others, or their families, or people overseas, or in impoverished countries or nations, or earthquake victims, or tsunami survivors, or whatever it is. Why is it that we as the human species are incapable of portraying those better futures that we're all supposedly working for? Is it because it just makes for a better story, and we understand that conflict drives story, and in order to provide a entertaining experience for the masses, there has to be some sort of conflict proposed to them? Or is it that we're really incapable of ever achieving that because of our own innate prejudices against each other? My way over yours. My way better than yours. Doesn't matter what it is or how it will benefit more people than mine. My way is still better than yours. I don't really know. I kind of hope it just makes for a better story. Like I said, no one on Earth knows how long any of us will actually be here. If you believe like I do, then you believe that there is a God who does know. But for the time being here on planet Earth, there's nobody who knows how long anything's going to last. So, assuming we do make it into a far distant future, assuming, maybe we do, maybe we don't, maybe we get taken out by sun flares in the next couple of years, because that's a thing that's on the horizon. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Google it. Yeah, that would be fun. But yeah, let me know what you think. Do you think we're going to make it into the future? Do you think we'll make it as a utopian society or as a dystopian society? Are we going to condemn and oppress ourselves? Or are we actually going to make it, as we're all supposedly trying to, into a truly better and, quote, utopian society? Anyway, I think that's all I have for today. Hope you all have enjoyed. If you did enjoy, a like rating down below would be very much appreciated. If not, a dislike rating or a nasty comment telling me to stop worrying so much about stuff that I'll probably never see. And yes, I will see you all next time. Goodbye.